Tom Rioch, promoting successful business experts, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. Joining us today from Portland, Oregon, Don Rasmussen, Chief Resume Designer at Pathfinder Writing and Career Services. So Don, I've been fired. Now what do I do?
First thing you need to do when you've been fired is take a deep breath. There's a lot of grieving that goes in the process, but you also need to get the ball rolling. Mm-hmm. The most important thing you need to do after you take that deep breath and process what's happened is to get into action. Mm-hmm. And that's where I help people really, as a resume writer and career management coach, I help empower people to see their value, especially when you've been fired. People feel loss of identity and a sense of self-worth. So really being empowered is remembering who you're connected to, what you've done and your accomplishments, and thinking forward to, okay, well, if not this, then what? And having that clarity to be able to move forward.
Well, to value, you mentioned that, and I see that on your LinkedIn profile. And it's very clear, clarifying your business value that drives. Because many times we don't feel, you've been fired. I don't think I'm worth anything.
Correct. A lot of people forget about everything they've ever accomplished on the job, whether that job ended up working out amicably or not amicably. So it's really important to, after you take that breath and as part of your action plan is just take stock and start thinking about, obviously, what kinds of things have you done to move the needle at that employer and previous employers? Incorporate that into your career materials, including your resume or LinkedIn, and really understanding and reflecting that value so you feel it, number one, but then also you're able to convey that to a potential and prospective employer.
Yeah, and I said, well, today, and literally today's world, in the United States, we see that just so many people are being made redundant, as the English call it. And it's not even their choice. They're not even sure if they've done something right or wrong. It's just, a tweet says bye-bye. And so really to reposition that, I mean, you breathe, as you mentioned, but you just can't sit around breathing too much.
It's really important to get going right away. And, like I said, there's that recovery time, but then you need to start thinking, okay, what do I need to get done? Hopefully, most people have updated their career document so they're already present and already accounted for. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't do that until there's actually a necessitated need. So my advice is to, now proactively get your career credentials updated and think about this mindfully. Another thing that happens if you before you get fired, you have an opportunity to access numbers in terms of like quantifying your accomplishments. But after you are, reduced or reduction in force or redundant, you won't have access to those numbers. So then you have to sort of do some scrambling and thinking ahead. So it's a lot easier to come up and record that information before you leave a company. So having updated resume and LinkedIn profile is really critical. I recommend updating those materials probably every 6 months so that you're pretty current. And that way, it could be a firing situation or it could be a promotion. So either way, you don't want to be scrambling. You want to be proactive about your career. So this is a bigger picture of career management that I like to empower people to think about.
But also works at the other side of the same coin is maybe I'm not waiting to be fired. Maybe I want to go. And so the same thing's value. For me, if I feel that my business value is more that I'm receiving, it's back to that same point. Get my act together.
Absolutely. And it really boils down to every job is actually a business contract. You're there as long as you are compensated and feel valued. And the employer will only keep you as long as they feel like you're contributing value. So anytime that promise breaks on either side, then someone leaves or someone is removed. So constantly being aware of that. And it doesn't hurt to remind your employer, not in a pesky kind of way, but make sure you have an annual review so you can kind of discuss those wins to remind them. No employer's front of mind, present, and accounted for everything you've done right at this very moment. So sometimes it takes some reminder nudges to remind them of the value. And, the axiom of the squeaky wheel gets the grease really comes into play there.
And but I've seen that in Brazil, the situation is I've seen that in other countries that we're talking of corporations, that's one thing. But here we have many family-run businesses, many small businesses. They seem to be either paternalistic or maternalistic, and they don't consider their employees as employees. They consider them as friends or whatever. And it becomes a very emotionally connected thing. And I've seen that also happen in other places where to get that annual review, they said, you may get the feedback, well, we talked about that at dinner yesterday. And maybe that's not the way.
And that is kind of a slippery slope, because still at the end of the day, you being an employee of that company is still a business decision.
Right.
And we saw a lot of that during the Great Recession that we had in 2007 through 2009. People were at small or medium-sized businesses, and they felt like they were part of the family. And then they got shell-shocked, that all of a sudden they got let go. Then they're thinking, well, we were all family. We loved each other. They loved me. I loved them. Well, that at the end of the day, if you're a business owner, you're looking at your numbers and you have to do what's best for your own business interests. And if that means you have to lay people off, then so be it. Unfortunately,
we see that today in small businesses, many small startups. They're starting exactly that way, around the garage or the coffee table or whatever. But then they have to make business decisions, and they could be bought out, because that's also the aspiration. I want to do something, and somebody's going to come and give me a bunch of money, and I'm going to sell my company. And then those employees are out the door.
It is scary. And one of the things that I tell people is that there's no such thing as job security. It's all about your employability. So keeping top of mind of what you bring to the table is you betting on yourself and investing in yourself.
Very good. Now, what you do and what you offer, obviously, you're remote, you're online, you happen to work with people anywhere, everywhere?
Yes, I'm a career management coach. I write resumes and CVs, and I also do LinkedIn profiles, as well as a lot of coaching that relates to job searching, salary negotiation, and interview coaching. So I'm here to help and empower job seekers to find their path along, their correct career pathway to success.
Well, in today's world, it's literally global, and businesses everywhere. Those pathways are multiple. Do you help persons find other paths?
I am not a career coach, and I want to distinguish the language. Career coach is really helping people figure out which direction they want to go. I'm a career management coach, and it's a little bit more of the tactical how to get there, and the including networking and managing your career credentials and thinking ahead, like professional development. So it's a bigger picture of your career, but it's not figuring out what you want to be when you grow up.
Well, today we've been grown up, and now we've decided maybe we want to be here anymore. We want to be there. So that's part of the path. But anyway, how can our listeners, wherever they are, find you?
Well, people can find me, Dawn Rasmussen, on LinkedIn. And I also have a website. It's pathfindercareers.com.
Very good. Well, Dawn, thanks for being here with us and sharing your expertise.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
And again, for our listeners, it's Dawn Rasmussen. It's DAWN, and the last name RASMUSSEN. RASMUSSEN. You find her on LinkedIn, and her site, pathfindercareers.com. pathfindercareers.com. Cafe Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at focusmi.com. Talk to Tom, talk to the world. Thanks for listening until the next time here at Cafe and Networking Podcast.